Today we're going to talk about finding slope from graphs. So to go ahead and get started, remember from our activity yesterday that we were talking about what happens when you change m. Okay, what happens when you change m in the equation? Remember, m stands for slope, okay, also known as the steepness of a line. So as you probably observed when I was dragging that slider back and forth, when I made m larger, okay, my line would go from this incline to this incline. It would get steeper. When I made it, and that's a positive slope, okay, as I go from left to right, my graph is going up. Now you probably notice when I made my slope negative, that my line started going down when I moved left to right. It was going down. And I also ask you to observe what happens when m is 0, or how do I get a horizontal line? So horizontal line is flat and has a slope of 0. Now let's go ahead and talk about, well, how do I calculate this slope? Now I'm going to first illustrate it with kind of this horse finding the apple example, and then we'll go ahead and move on to some more particulars. So when I'm finding slope, my goal is to figure out how to get, for this case, this horse to this apple. Now I can't move straight along this line. I kind of have to give the horse directions on these vertical and horizontal lines. How do I get to that apple? So if I were to instruct the horse, I would say, hey, go up to the same height as the apple. So 1 space, 2 spaces, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So go up 5 spaces and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and to the right 7 spaces. These are the instructions that help give me my slope. When we find slope, we're looking to find the rise over the run. So if we're looking at a horse example, how far up or down did the horse have to go? And how far right or left did the horse have to go? So if I were to look at this slope, the horse rose 5 and then went right 7. So the slope of this line would be 5 over 7. Let's look at a different example. So if I'm looking at this example, and I have my 2 points, so here's point 1, here's point 2, and I often have students say, how do you know what point is 1 and which point is 2? And here's what I always say, whichever one comes first when you're going this way on your graph. So this is point 1 and this is point 2. So how do I get from point 1 to point 2? And we're always going to do the rise over the run. So I'm going to count up or down first. So I'm going to count up 1, 2 spaces. And when you count up, and this is something that I'd like you to write down. When you count up, that's a positive direction. When you count down, that's a negative direction. When you count to the right, that's a positive direction. And when you count to the left, it's a negative direction. So as I put these numbers for my rise and my run, I also include a positive or a negative. All right, so positive 2 up. I'm going to make my fraction. Those instructions on how far up to go on the top of my fraction. So positive 2 goes on the top. And I run 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. I move to the right 4. So remember that's positive 4 if I'm looking at this little guide right here. So positive 4. Now the one last thing I need to make sure that you know is that whenever I have a slope or a fraction that can be simplified, for example 2/4 can be simplified to 1/2, I'm going to do that. So my slope for this line is 1 over 2. Let's look at another one. So as I look at this example, I notice that there's 3 dots on there. I'm going to go to the first 2 as I go this way along my line. So here's point 1 and here's 0.2. Remember, I'm going to find the rise over the run. So remember, rise means up and down, run means left or right. And if I always start at the very most left point, I'm only ever going to have to move right. So as I move from point 1 to 2, I'm going to make my fraction bar, and I'm going to say, okay, I need to find the rise first on top. So I'm going to, now, if I move up, that's not going to get me to 0.2. So I'm going to move down. 1, 2 spaces. I'm going to stop because I'm in line with 0.2. That was 2 in the downward direction. Remember, up was positive. Whoops, up was positive, but down was negative. And moving 1, 2, 3 spaces to the right, and that's a positive 3. So let's write those numbers on there. Our rise is -2. I'm going down 2, and my run is positive 3. Notice I don't keep writing those plus signs on there because simplified it's positive. Now this can't be simplified any more than this, so this is my answer. My slope is -2/3. Now let's compare. This had a negative slope. Notice as I go left to right, it goes down. Notice back here on this positive 1/2, as I go left to right, my slope is going up. Let's look at a few more examples. So if I see these 2 points, I'm going to go along my line till I hit the first point. Okay, and this is going to be my second point. So let's go ahead and find our slope. Remember, I'm going to find the rise over the run. So I want to go up or down first, and then right or left. So if I'm starting at point 1, in order to get to point 2, I need to go up, not down. So counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So positive 6. I make my fraction, positive 6 goes on top. My run, how far over do I go? 1, 2, that's to the right, so positive 2 spaces, so 2 on the bottom. And remember to simplify. 6/2 does simplify. If I type that into my decimals calculator, it will show you exactly what your fraction is, 3. And you can get the idea. I can continue to find these slopes. So I'm going left to right. Here's my point 1. Here's point 2. How do I find my slope? I rise and then I run. So make a fraction bar. Rise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then simplify. That does simplify to 1/1 or just 1. If I look at this point line, I can see that it's going to be negative. It's going down. So as I calculate my slope, and as I go down, here's 0.1 and here's 0.2. How far do I count down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So -6 on top of my fraction over 1, 2. So positive 2 to the right, and my slope simplifies to -3.